Today we're going to be talking about the takeaway, and we're going to be talking in particular about how your trail wrist should be functioning very early in the backswing position, and it's going to help any of you golfers out there that are struggling with that first move in a big way. Now, what has prompted this video is, well, you guys asking me questions and sort of letting me know about the difficulties that you're facing in your game. And a common question always aligns up to like the setup position and exactly what the wrist should be doing. So what we're doing is we're taking a look at some data which has been captured by Hack Motion. Now, Hack Motion is a device which you can actually purchase, and it is a piece of equipment which would be placed on the back of your lead wrist or your trail wrist, but on the back of your wrist and also on the back of your hand. And what it does is it just measures exactly what your wrists and your forearms are doing throughout the golf swing. Now, what they've also obviously done is they've gone and measured some professional golfers, and like all of these companies that go and measure exactly what professional golfers are doing, they always see a strong correlation in their movement patterns. And that's what we're going to be talking about with this trail wrist motion today. So what we're seeing with the professional golfer is in the setup position, they're actually starting in a degree of flexion, right? Which basically just means the trail wrist is actually positioned more this way, only very slightly. Now, the reason why that's happening is because if I was to sort of let go of the club here, when you address the ball, I'm holding a 9-iron, the lead part of the club, or sorry, the club should fall on your lead inner thigh, something like so. So it introduces an element of sort of forward or shaft lean, but nothing too excessive, just like so. And then you place your lead hand on the golf club and your trail hand, and therefore because of this position, that's why that trail wrist will be located as it is there. Now, as you start to take that club back, what we start to see very quickly is that trail wrist just starting to create that sort of hinging action. Okay, so I'm not saying it's like some monumental shift, but what we can see is very quickly in that backswing position, that trail wrist is just starting to produce that bit of hinging action, or if you like, that little bit of sort of extensional motion, right? And I think that's a key thing, because I get lots of questions about the first move and you know, should I be waggling, shouldn't I be waggling? And we've talked about re-gripping in a recent video as well. And I think, as I stated, waggling, this type of motion here, as I'm demonstrating, it's absolutely fine because it's a movement that needs to happen in the golf swing. Now, some of you might now be looking at, well, what's this little contraption I got on the golf club? Or some of you might be thinking, well, I've had one of those and it's just collecting dust. Is it something you could be potentially using? And the answer is yes. Now, what this does, this swing guide training aid, is it's basically trying to educate you the position of lag, right? So the idea is in the top of the backswing position, your lead forearm should be located on this device, so it's nice and connected like so. But the main reason why I'm using it is I'm just trying to show the sort of subtlety, but also the potential importance of this first motion. So when we hold the golf club and I grip it like so, you can see the way that the swing guide is pointing in line with the club shaft, but it's not in line with my lead arm. Now, what we want to do is we want to get the golf club and my lead arm in a relationship working together in the golf swing. You know, we want to feel like that is a solid unit when we're coming in towards this hit. So therefore, this little movement, this little hinging action, if I sort of set up like so, I'm only doing it the amount, just a little bit of hinging action to get this swing guide back in line with my left arm. And that's the reason why I've positioned it on the golf club. So if you start thinking at home, well, how much of a hinge should I do? You only need to do it the necessary amount to get that club shaft back in line with that left arm. But again, it should kind of just put you a little bit at ease in terms of these sort of feelings of, well, what's that sort of first motion? Well, I'd suggest that you want to get that feeling of that wrist behaving like so. And then from there, that should put you in much better stead. Okay, so what I think is really important is that we continue the backswing conversation, and particularly the start of the downswing with this trail wrist. So we would obviously get set up to the golf ball, as we've already discussed, and we know that first move is a very small amount of that hinging action. But what you should be then doing as you continue to take the club back is that you want to kind of make sure that you keep your arms, I would say, still pretty connected to your body. The biggest trait with most amateur golfers is the lead arm starts to get too disconnected from the body. And although we see professional golfers who do have success with this, you know, somebody like DJ comes to mind who's more in this type of position, I think the less moving parts, the better. So you want to try and get that feeling of keeping that lead arm nice and connected to the body and just allowing that little bit of that hinging action. What this will do is this will just help you take the club back on plane, as we're seeing demonstrated here. Now, your trail wrist is going to be progressively, should we say, hinging or extending throughout the backswing position, and it will basically just move the amount that it needs to help you keep the golf club on plane. The more on plane, again, the better. We don't really want to be moving and deviating off plane excessively in the golf swing. Again, it adds to complexity. So even in the backswing position, when you start to produce wrist cock, okay, which is the cocking motion of the left wrist, if you like, the lag term. But again, what we see from the data is that the trail wrist is staying extended, right? It's staying in this sort of hinging position. At no time is it introducing any sort of radial motion this way, so any wrist cocking motion. And the problem is, if you start to do that with your trail wrist, it will get the club shaft too vertical. So if you're somebody who gets a little sort of cuppy in this sort of backswing position, then that's why, again, you want to be thinking about that type of motion in that first move, and then holding that sort of relationship, or if not, increasing that relationship in the backswing. Now, as we initiate the downswing, I think it's important to sort of feel like you hold on to that angle, or the feeling would be, although it's not a reality, that you're actually trying to increase that angle a little bit in the start to the downswing as well. The main reason for that is because most amateur golfers have more of a tendency to steepen the club shaft in the start of the downswing. So I think holding on to that angle, or if not, getting a sense that you're increasing it, would be very, very beneficial indeed. So you're in this position in the downswing, and as you continue to sort of rotate and move your body, then inevitably this wrist angle is going to go. But what you don't want to do is you don't want to be producing the same wrist positions you did at address. And to make sure you avoid that from happening, I'd suggest that you watch this video here, because this talks exactly about the things that you should be doing in this sort of impact position, with some really useful drills to help you out as well. See you guys again really soon.